75 minutes of peace. Uninterrupted, predictable quiet. This is exactly what I need. Because for the next 75 minutes, I have to listen to migraine-inducing audio diarrhea. Hundreds of you requested this. Hundreds of you wanted me to listen to one of the worst metal albums of all time. And the worst part? This has the name of one of the big four on it. This is coming from one of the greatest metal icons of all time. It's time to regret one of the worst metal albums coming from one of the biggest names ever, and it's time to regret the past.
After covering the Triforce of Suckage and ending it with the comment that I was open for suggestions on the next episode of Regretting the Past, I was blown away by just how many people wanted me to cover Saint Anger. Over a decade later, and this album is still a scourge on anyone in the rock and metal world who have to know it exists. Most metal fans that were born before the year 2000 are more than familiar with Metallica, and most of these people know that Metallica were once the sword and voice of metal in the 80s. Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. These albums stood as a new standard for what metal would be measured up to. It wasn't until the late 80s and early 90s that things started to change. After an unfortunate lineup change and the decision to go in a new direction, a self-titled album was released that would become the most played album in their discography.
Seriously, I defy you to find one rock or metal fan who hasn't heard Enter Sandman or Sand Patrol on the radio in the last 3 months. It's impossible.
While at the time this album may have left the true classic metalheads feeling betrayed, it is difficult to say that there wasn't some value in the Black Album. It is still a testament to the time frame and still feels much like it came from Metallica. Then, the Legends dropped two big loads on us. Load and Reload hit and people started getting confused. It wasn't to the point of wishing for the glory days of Battery in One yet, but it left many people scratching their head and hearing the new radio-friendly tunes of Metallica dominating radio and television.
Keep in mind that this was back in the day when MTV really was music television, and they were supporting all genres of music, including rock and metal. Kids, I know that sounds ridiculous, but the M actually stands for music in MTV.
So, after releasing their cover album Garage Inc. and live S&M album, which both have some gems on them, the departure of bassist Jason Newsted in 2001, and the merciless pursuit of Napster by Lars Ulrich, it was time once again for Metallica to come out with new material. And thus, Saint Anger is the project of over 2 years of delays and work. When asked about the writing and creation of the album, Bob Rock, producer of the album and fill-in bassist until Metallica picked up Robert Trujillo, stated that I wanted to do something to shake up radio and the way everything else sounds. To me, this album sounds like four guys in a garage getting together and writing rock songs. There was really no time to get amazing performances out of James. We liked the raw performances. Bob Rock is a legendary producer and has done a massive amount of work for music, but that statement is very telling on the quality of an album. This was in a time period when James Hetfield was getting out of rehab and going through a rough time, but when the hype of an album includes there was no time to get an amazing performance out of James, then it doesn't speak well for the effort put into the product. Top that with the fact that guitar solos are almost non-existent on a 75-minute album from Metallica, and it really feels like this is some type of bizarro world formation replicating a once amazing band. So to clarify, Saint Anger, the 8th full original album from Metallica, includes no guitar solos, snare drums, and an omitted light performance from James Hetfield. I don't like this. That being said, it's time to go track by track and find out why most people consider Saint Anger to be one of the worst metal albums of all time. Your prayers are greatly appreciated at this point for me.
Keep on searching. This search goes on. This search goes on. Frantic, tick, 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 tock. Frantic, tick, 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 tock. Frantic, tick, 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 tick.
From the opening track of this album, you can tell that this is something very unfamiliar when you expect Metallica. If the starting pace would have been kept up, and then this song may have had some potential, but I feel like Frantic goes in 5 different directions throughout the almost 6-minute track time. It starts with a brutal rhythm, but then is changed to a slow ballad-style rock song, and then picks back up to a rhythm spasm, and then goes into the lyrical genius of frantic tick 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 tock. When you would expect a good solo or guitar string, the song plummets to a soft chord progression just to go right back into the chorus. And that leads to the most infamous problem of Saint Anger, the drums. I remember in 2003 hearing Saint Anger on the radio in St. Louis, and then hearing the drum track stripped out, just so they can mock it. So instead of me just explaining how bad it is and the reasons why I don't like it, here's the stripped out track from Frantic. If you enjoy the use of snare drums as the main rhythm, then you have come to the right place. This entire album is filled with more snares than a hunting trip. We know that Lars Ulrich knows how to play very well, but the talent means nothing when all you can hear is the echo ringing of snares and cymbals for minutes on end. There are some industrial metal bands who know how to use the snare drum and pipework effects extremely well, like Fear Factory for example, but they know how to space it out and have it add to a song. Here, it just becomes an overbearing static over an already problematic song that can't stay in the same gear. And that was only one song. Let's keep moving so I don't start crying over how much I have to do.
He never gets respect. Saint Anger on my neck. You flush it out. You flush it out. Saint Anger on my neck. You flush it out.
This is the song that most rock fans associate with this album, as it was the first track to hit radio, is the title track, and it's also the only one I really remember to ever hit radio from this album. It feels like yesterday I was listening to this song on the radio at 105.7 The Point, and then DJs at the time were mocking it after the track was over. Lyrically, this is one of the few songs on the album that could have worked, but it falls into the same issue with going in different speeds and directions. It's like a car with a really bad transmission that can't shift gears smoothly, and it just stalls and jumps around. It starts out generic and fine, and then progresses into a snare drum roll, and then hits the brakes for Hetfield to sing a slow dirge. And then goes back to a bridge that sounds like an April Fool's Day joke where you hear Hetfield sing Saint Anger while he just sings Flush It Out. I would love to flush this album out right now. And then it goes back to a bland chorus with no real guitar impression and the same snare drum pounding. And if you thought the drum work was bad in this last song, just listen to this.
Gotcha! It was me. But the first track really was that crappy drumming. I didn't make that.
I'm sorry I tricked all of you for a laugh. Here, let me tell you something interesting to take your mind off it. This song won a Grammy. Yep, in 2004, Saint Anger the song won the Grammy for Best Metal Performance. Now I know what you're thinking when I say the word Grammy.
Oh, it's a Grammy.
Hey, don't throw your garbage down here.
I'm sure there are many people who like this song, but for me there is zero appeal, just like the opening track, Frantic, and I'm afraid that's what will be a continuing theme for this album. Some Kind of Monster was one of the few songs I had heard from Saint Anger before making this video and before listening to the full album in entirety. I remember it because it had an extremely simple lyric writing scheme that follows the same description style pattern. It goes on and on and on. What really wears on the listener is that the song is over 8 minutes long and it takes over 2 minutes of basic filler instrumentation just to get to the song. It's not even an interesting build-up, it just kind of exists.
These are the looks that chill to the bone. These are the fears that swing overhead. These are the weights that hold you down. This is the end that will never end. This is the voice of silence no more.
Does that sound like it resembles Metallica in any way? If you were to grab any random rock or metal fan and not tell them who the song was by or the name of the song, and just play it for them, do you really think they would get Metallica out of it just by hearing what it sounds like? It truly feels like an 8-minute vacuum of nothing. The vocals feel uninspired and phoned in, the guitar and bass are staticky and a side note, and the consistent metallic drum rigging is starting to make my eardrums throb. Moving on.
I see my reflection in the window. It looks different, so different than what you see. Projecting judgment on the world. This house is clean, man. This house is
Dirty Window is the first time so far that I have perked up a bit and started to get excited listening to this. You can hear the pickup in Hetfield's voice, which helps, but the drums are so loud they cover the rhythm of both guitars, and all you can hear is a pounding rhythm to what could have been something salvageable. As you listen through this song, you can tell that they were having a little fun with it, but the lack of any guitar expression and the drop in the song's pace at a little after 4 minutes ruins everything. It's a shame because for whatever reason it is, I feel that Dirty Window could have been something, if not made in the style as the rest of the songs that St. Anger has tarnished.
I know that the men in Metallica are extremely talented musicians, but the consistently cantankerous snare bashing is starting to wear on me.
I mean, come on, this can't go on for 75 minutes, right? This can't consistently happen. They have to go back to a real drum set and start to actually play to resemble something that they did before, right? Alright then. I'm gonna need a minute to go get ready for the rest of this. Alright. It is so weird to think of a song by Metallica as sing-songy, but the Invisible Kid repeated line and many other lyric stanzas feel like they were meant for kids to sing along to. This is another track where the guitar and bass feel like they were just background accompaniment, and the drum pounding is done to help keep the rhythm. Very poorly, I might add. These metal nursery rhyme lyrics and repeated rhythms along with Lars' snare banging goes on here for over 8 minutes. I'll again give credit to Hetfield as it does feel like he has a little more energy in this track's performance, but it still is 8 minutes of music that has no real appeal to make anyone want to listen again, and that pattern just keeps continuing with St. Anger.
I know how you feel. I want this out of my head also.
Everything about this song, My World, just bores me. Vocally, it feels like Hetfield is losing that zest he had in the last 2 tracks. The guitar sounds a little more loud and present in this song, but it still doesn't mesh at all with the snare apocalypse. Everything feels disjointed and like a bad junior high practice session at band class.
Lyrically, this song doesn't offer much, and it's becoming more and more difficult to last the marathon that is St. Anger. This doesn't continue for the rest, right? I mean, there's at least one light of hope in the rest of this album, right?
Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Come on, shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Come on, shoot me.
This song is awful. There is no flow to the track outside of the first 60 seconds, and the vocal line is ridiculous. This honestly sounds like someone is mocking Metallica in the studio by pretending to play one of their songs, but in reality, it's them just jamming out in the studio. This is another song that falls into the category of barely resembling Metallica. Hetfield's voice comes in clear, but it sounds like he is ready to leave the studio for the day, and this was the last performance, so he just wanted to perform this one clean and go home. Lars' snare Say Shit is still in an all-ringing glory, and this along with many other tracks waste the talent of Kirk Hammett. I mean, I honestly don't know if he's in this album or not at this point. Above the problems with the snare drum and everything else, I think it's a travesty that they waste the potential of two great guitarists and just set them in the back. Why? Why did they think that was a good idea? It's like a Rush album where they take Neil Peart and just stick him in the back with a bongo and tell him to keep it down a little bit.
Deals in habits, deals in pain. Run away, but I'm back again. Then she holds my hand, and I lie to get a smile. Ooh, yeah.
Sweet Amber definitely has that garage feel to it. I can definitely see a group of people just jamming out and playing together with this song. And about 30 seconds in with the guitar and bass, it finally starts to feel like Metallica are really going for it, but there's a problem. Lars can't lay off the snare drum. Really think about it. If this song had a good bass drum and a standard variety drum kit, then you can imagine how much cleaner and impressive this would sound. I mean, the chorus isn't exactly doing the song any favors here either, but if Snare City would calm it down in the back, then I think this song could have been a good addition to an album. In previous albums on Regretting the Past, I've spoken about how they get worse as they go on. With Saint Anger, it gets more horrifying as it goes on. It's beyond disappointment. I mean, I am legitimately worried about what's going to happen next and how much more it's going to devolve.
Ooh, I die a little more. In the unnamed feeling, it comes alive.
This song isn't that bad. As for stepping out of the comfort zone and trying something different, it feels like the Unnamed Feeling works much better than any other song off of Saint Anger. The pace feels natural for the vocals and guitar riffs, and the snare, while still present, isn't as obnoxious or loud. I really feel like if this song was placed on load or reload, especially in the place of The Unforgiven 2, then it would have given one of those albums a little more substance and credibility. It's a shame because I feel that this song is the only flicker of light in an extremely harsh album. To be honest, the letting up of the snare drum is very welcome and refreshing. If the rest of the album is kind of light on the snare, I think I'll be okay. Wow, talk about a cold shower feeling. If you like this song, then more power to you, but this track resembles more noise and less music to me. The instruments feel out of sync with each other, and the lyrics are horribly weak. Sometimes it's good to just rock out and hear some volume in metal, but is it too much to ask that the song be something pleasant to listen to from beginning to end? The bridge of this song is obnoxious and the chorus is embarrassing. I feel like Purify is the song music teachers should play for children so they know what not to do with their instruments. I swear, there has to be more to Saint Anger than the cerebellum numbing that I've just received. There has to be like some subliminal message Metallica was putting in there just to mess with people, like to get them to do whatever they wanted. There has to be another reason for this album to exist. That took a dark turn. It ends with snare bashing and the word kill repeated over and over. Not really sure what else I can say that I haven't already said about the other songs that doesn't apply here. It all has finally just started to blur together. Instead of going into detail on this final track, I want to point out why Saint Anger is worth regretting. If so many people know it's bad, then why regret it at all, as it wasn't a fad album or even fondly remembered for nostalgia reasons? Because Saint Anger sold over 2 million copies in the US alone. And it sold millions more outside of the United States. People were literally throwing money at music stores to get Saint Anger. The album we were warned about before its release and that we could audibly hear was going to be rough from just the title track sold millions of copies. This wasn't just like an opening week either, it continued to gradually sell millions throughout the next couple months after release. Metallica is not only a band, it's a brand name. That name plastered on anything will sell for better or worse. I'm not saying they haven't earned that significance, but is that really a good thing for the music scene? If we know that a band is going to release something that doesn't sound up to par, but we will still purchase it as soon as possible, is it really helping the rock and metal scene? Don't misunderstand. I love Metallica, and the music world is a better place for what they have contributed. But that does not mean that everything they create we have to instantly support and buy. Then again, this does happen for every type of medium. When Fallout 4 was announced, people were already begging to pre-order a game that isn't even going to be out for months. When Jurassic World came out, it had the biggest box opening weekend ever, even though people have been burned by the last 2 sequels. It's just how we're programmed. It's good to support the bands we love, but if we've already been warned that something is going to be bad, and then we continue to throw our money at it just because of the brand name, it may be worth regretting. It's a shame that Napster didn't exist in 2003, because that way maybe people could have checked it out beforehand and... something's adding up. The Metallica vs. Napster case resulted in a filter being placed on Napster and all Metallica songs being removed in 2001. Saint Anger came out in 2003 and the album took at least 2 years on and off to create. If Napster wasn't shut down or had the injunction placed for specific artists, then Metallica's Saint Anger could have been searched and leaked. That way people would have known what it sounded like before release. Does that mean Lars and the rest of Metallica knew that Saint Anger was gonna suck out loud, so they had to shut down Napster in order to have a chance of people buying it? It wasn't about an artist being able to not have his music stolen. They were just worried Saint Anger was gonna sell, so they had to go after our 19-year-old software. Just so they could get a profit out of this album? That's the reason why they went after Napster so bad? Because Saint Anger wouldn't have sold otherwise? Lars is an evil genius. Hey guys, thank you for watching and all the support. Once again, I am open for suggestions for the next episode of Regretting the Past. Just leave a comment. Please subscribe also if you haven't already. It really helps me out a lot. Also like the video if you enjoyed it so it can be discovered easier. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RockReviews, and you can click the annotation or YouTube card to see my last episode of Regretting the Past with Creeds.